Either counsel have any comment loosely on the case or anything at this point?
None.
No.
Okay, so the lawyers are not going to talk about it, but guess who else isn't going to talk about it? Well, at least not in person. The plaintiff. As it turns out, Gianasmidis is in the hospital under physician's orders not to engage in overly stressful activity, and believe me, this is overly stressful activity. It's a very intriguing case because these are old world people. These are Greek people, and the patriarch of the family had certain trusts that he had established for the benefit of himself and others. There are allegations that money was taken out of these trusts and that people that were supposed to get properties did not get them. There's, I believe, $127,000 or $147,000 is missing from a hole in the ground back in the motherland that was allegedly booted by the daughter. So we just finished plaintiff's case today, and this gentleman here, Father George Dragas, testified that it was the matriarch's belief of Vasilios. It was his belief he was being taken for a ride and abandoned by the daughter.
Church in the local vicinity.
Yes, I'm a part-time priest, and I do as much as I can in one of the oldest, if not the oldest, community in Boston, Greek Orthodox Church, St. John the Baptist in Southend, which is under the Metropolitan of Boston. So I'm a priest under his authority, appointed there as a part-time priest. And I'm the only priest there. That's an old community. Many people moved out of it, and other communities were created as a result of the movement of the Greek population. But there are still a number of people in this historic church who want to maintain it, and therefore I serve there.
Father, do you know an individual, or did you know an individual by the name of Vasilios Gianasmidis?
Absolutely. When I went to the church, he was one of the first people to meet. He was my parishioner. And the first time I met him and I came to know him more intimately, he came to ask for confession and take communion. So once we met there, and he told me about his life, etc., and his intentions to do good works in the church, offering various things, what needs we had in the church. We made friends, and I discovered he was a neighbor, and so we developed a friendship.
All right, and did you know an individual by the name of Chrysanthi Gianasmidis?
Yes, that was his wife. She was not well. I heard a lot of good things by other ladies in the church, because we do have an organization run by the ladies, which is called Philotochos, the Friends of the Poor, who do all kinds of activities to help people in need, and both in the church and outside the church. This is part of the structure of the Greek Orthodox Church, and every parish has similar things. And there is a metropolitan one and a national one of Philotochos. She was a very active member in there, not in my days. I did research a little bit the history of the church and wrote a little booklet because there wasn't one. Found out all about priests and also about ladies who helped in church. She was very prominent and a very nice woman, what I was told, but she suffered. She was confined to the house and had to go for dialysis every week. And how she survived, I can remember 8-9 years of this turmoil. It was a miracle. And therefore I came to know her and visit her and give her communion in the house because she couldn't come to church.
And Father, if you could describe, based on your own observations, the relationship between Vasilios and his wife, Chrysanthi.
Oh, they were good people. They were very good people, but there were tensions because you can imagine if you have a person that has to go to dialysis twice a week and suffers a lot, and he had to attend all kinds of things about his work and friends and others. There were some tensions, which he confided with me in the confession. Nothing major.
All right.
Yeah.
Father, let me direct your attention to 2007.
Yeah.
After Rasanti died.
Yes.
I believe she died in September of 2006.
Yes.
In 2007, did you ever have occasion to visit with Vasilios?
Oh, yes.
And you can tell me where you visited with him.
Well, I went to his house, which is close here in Rosendale, and he also came to me on several occasions.
Where was his house located?
Now, is it Fackworth?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's Fackworth. I don't remember the number. I know how to get there.
Okay. Farquhar Street?
Yes, Fackworth Street.
Okay.
In Rosendale.
So you went to see him there?
Yes. And later, I think he moved out of the house where he lived with his wife after her death. I don't remember the details, but there was a little house in the back of the house because he rented part of it, and that's how they had income. And he lived in the house behind. Now that's I visited him there, and there he became very sick, and I went to give him communion before he went to the hospital finally, and he died. And I visited him there as well.
He died in December of 2007?
Yes, and I took the funeral of both of them. And his, of course, and I buried them, both of them. So I was very fond of both of them. They were very nice, good people who had done a lot of good work in the church, and for many other people. Yeah.
In 2007, in your conversations with Vasilios, did he ever discuss his relationship with his daughter?
He was concerned with his children.
By the way, do you know what his daughter's name is? Katina?
Katina, yes. I had never met her, actually.
Mm-hmm.
I met her only at the funeral and at the burial, but there was tension. There was a lot of tension. And I remember there was an incident at the church. There was an incident during the funeral because some people opposed her presence there. I don't remember the detail. I only discovered, well, I knew that there was tension between the father and her.
What did he tell you specifically about Katina and his dealings with her?
He told me that she had, well, there are two things. That they went to Greece together, and she abandoned him, and he was not well, and he didn't even have money because she took away his money. He was quite distressed about this. This is before he became very ill. But he was ill at home. When I visited him and told me about this journey to Greece, and also that she took his money from the bank by signing his name. I said, is it possible? He said, yes, I didn't do this. Then he was also insinuating that she's going to take everything of mine.
When you say insinuating, what specifically do you recall him saying to you about that?
About property, that if she had signed his name in the bank, then she could do many other things, and he just couldn't believe that his daughter would do this. So I became aware that there was, he was distressed with his daughter, but he was in favor of his son who looked after him, or Savas. And he kept telling me about this and asking me, what can I do? Can I take my daughter to the court? Is this a sin of the father to take the child? Well, we discussed this. He was really harassed by this thought. And I said, look, if there is injustice and fraud and all this that you are telling me, then you have to put things right. And if there are there's a legal aspect to it, then I don't think it's a sin. Because I have, as a priest, I have seen cases of this when families were ruined something to rectify the situation was to go to the courts. It was the last resort and there was no other way. Otherwise, injustice would have been committed. And I said if there's no other way of reconciliation, then to put things right, you've got to go to the courts.
What specifically did he tell you that Katina did to him regarding his real estate and his property?
I think he said that she was taking the, the rent and by what right, and that she had appropriated the house. Now, how she had done this, I don't know. But she had appropriated property that belonged to him.
Okay,
And
by
was
property.
taking the money.
Yeah, so it was money and real estate.
Money and real estate. Yeah.
Did he ever tell you that regarding a home in Guadalajara?
Yes.
Is it Greece?
In Greece. That's right. Yes, he did. That's why actually they went to Greece. And she, that's the problem. I don't remember the details, but I remember that not only that he was emphasizing that she took this house and then took his money and left him completely without anything. He had promised to give me a certain amount for the iconography of the church to restore something that was in the 90s, late 90s. We had the ceiling of this historic church came down and all the iconography and it was restored. But certain things had not been restored and he was very keen to put 2 archangels on the sanctuary. So he had promised to do this, but then he was distressed that he had no money. I said, forget about the money. You are distressed with all these other issues. Don't worry about the money, but I promised to do this and I cannot do this further and I cannot, he was, I have no money. I said, I can give you money if you want to help you. No, he said. He was, both in Greece there was a problem. That's where the problem really became a big one. And after that, leading up to his death, he was always making comments about that he couldn't believe how his daughter would treat him in this way.
Did he ever tell you how he assisted her financially before anything?
Yes, I think if I remember well again, well, people tell me, but I don't keep a record of these things. I think he had given her some property to get rents and therefore to sustain herself. But there was other property which had not been given. He had given to both children, but there was the other property to him and to his wife, so they would sustain themselves. And the impression I got from him was that what was left to him was taken by the daughter in a high-handed way.